Hello, and welcome back to the studio. I'm Dr. Wiggo, and today I'm going to give a commencement address. I really am. While I have attended many commencements over the years, I have never spoken at one. I thought I'd remedy that today. So this is going to be my commencement advice for the graduates of 2026, but I'm going to be giving good advice that could work for anybody in any situation, so stay tuned. Congratulations, graduates, parents, families, instructors, professors, and administrators on reaching another commencement in 2026. To the class of 2026, I sat where you were sitting 51 years ago at Vassar College. And today I want to share some things I've learned in those 51 years that you might find useful in your future careers in your life. Have you ever walked into a room and thought, why did I come in here? I've done it hundreds of times. You've probably done it too. In fact, most people have done it because it turns out tens of thousands of years ago, we were hardwired for protecting ourselves. You've heard of the fight or flight reflex. Well, part of that is our brains trying to keep us hyper aware of our surroundings so that you can constantly evaluate your surroundings for your safety. Because thousands of years ago, when we were out walking around, we were part of the food chain and there were things out there that could kill us. And so we learned to constantly evaluate. One of the things that developed in our brains to help us do this was a special ability. So you're going through the woods and you come into a clearing. It's a whole different environment than the woods you were just in. So to help you out, your brain would wipe your short-term memory because the memories in your short-term memory of the place that you have just been are no longer relevant. So it wipes your short-term memory so that you can then concentrate on evaluating this new area for threats. So why does walking into a room do that? Because to your lizard brain, walking through a doorway triggers the we're in a new area brain wipe. And what was in your short-term memory? The reason you walked into the room. So you walk into the room, our brain says we're in a new place, let's wipe the short-term memory, and now you don't know why you're there. Our brains are hardwired to constantly evaluate. When you see almost anything, your brain is thinking friend or foe, fight or flight. You may have experienced this in your own life. When you meet someone and you just don't feel right about them, you don't know why, but something about how they look or sound or smell has triggered something in your brain that says, this is not someone I can trust. You just know. You're mainly unaware of all this, but it's happening in your brains all the time. They've done studies about face-to-face job interviews that have shown that the decision on whether or not to hire the person is generally made in the first 30 seconds of the interview. Well, what have you done in the first 30 seconds of the interview? You've walked into the room, you've had a brain wipe. Fortunately, in job interviews, you don't need your short-term memory. You've said hello, you've shaken hands. That's why the experts say when you're in a job interview, look them straight in the eye, give them a nice firm handshake, because in those first few seconds of the interview, they are deciding unconsciously whether to hire you or not. By the way, you can still blow it during the interview. But the studies have shown it's very hard if they've decided not to hire you to win them over in the interview. This constant evaluation will continue throughout your career. For most of your school experience, you're explicitly constantly evaluated. You're given tests, you have assignments, you're given grades. But in the real world, you typically do not get much feedback. You're constantly being evaluated, but no one's telling you what those evaluations are. My first experience of this was when I was with IBM in the 1970s. I got a new manager, I was having a great year, having helped sell over $20 million in new equipment. Then comes my annual evaluation. And my new manager drops me from exceptional to above average. Because he said I came in late too often. And this is the first time this came up. Despite the fact that I frequently worked very late in the evenings, I had been constantly evaluated but not told until my annual review. I left IBM not long after this. You're constantly being evaluated, and they even start before you even interview for the job. More than half of Fortune 500 companies look at potential applicants' social media accounts so people have learned to hide any controversial posts. So then companies started requiring you to give them your social media account passwords before they would agree to interview you. Some states have passed laws making this illegal, but not all. And after you're hired, the level of constant evaluation increases. Over half of Fortune 500 companies routinely read employees' emails and text messages, which is perfectly legal if you're using company-owned computers and cell phones, even if you're checking your private email using a company-owned device. And again, if you're using a company-owned phone, they can read your text messages. Here's a cautionary tale from many years ago. A city in Connecticut gave cell phones to all of their firefighters so they could easily get hold of them in case of a fire. The firefighters promptly used them to send personal texts to one another, including some racist jokes. Well, the city was reading their text messages and fired them. The firefighters sued the city for invasion of privacy and wrongful termination. The courts upheld the firings and said there was no privacy violation because the city owned the cell phones. My advice to you is that when you are at work or using a company-owned computer or cell phone, assuming your manager is standing directly behind you, constantly evaluating every word you say or type. Because in many companies, they actually are monitoring everything. So in conclusion, my best advice to you is to assume you're constantly being evaluated. Assume your emails and text messages and social media posts are being read by your company. Assume someone is always listening to you, and assume you are always on camera. Always be on your best behavior, and your career will go much better. Also, be kind to people. How you treat administrative assistants and servers and baristas and everyone you encounter can have effects on your life. Good effects and bad effects. So default to kindness, and I guarantee your life will be better for it. Congratulations again. Now go and have the best life possible. And that concludes my commencement address I've always wanted to give. So that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time. Bye-bye. Next week, we'll be talking about Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. Thanks for staying to the end. Bye-bye.